I've, at times wanted to or just tried to casually meditate in a kind of casual posture. And I've never had much success like that. Maybe it's a shortcoming of mine, but I find that unless I kind of get into a really upright, pretty solid posture, my mind doesn't seem to really want to go there. My mind doesn't really want to go there anyway. So, uh, and it might be purely conditioning. It might just be that, for so many years I've practiced like that, that if I'm not in that kind of posture, I'm just conditioned. I don't know. But, as usual, I will encourage you to get into what I will call a meditative posture, which to me means upright. If you are able to manage being upright, there are people who simply cannot sit in that kind of posture and that can meditate lying down, but into a posture that you can be very stable and still. And then close your eyes or just lower your gaze so that you are withdrawing from the visual world. And this can help you to turn your attention inward. Can also, I think, trigger more thinking as the mind looks for stimulation or just becomes busier. So closing our eyes doesn't necessarily quiet us much. We have to deal with that. That, of course, is one of the challenges of meditation is to deal with the busyness of the mind. And so one of the ways to counteract that busyness is to be very intentional about feeling the sensations in the body. And one thing we can do is begin or sit with a fairly quick sweeping of the attention through the body, beginning with the head, or you can begin with the feet. I usually begin with the head, relaxing your face, your jaw, your eyes. But important, equally important to the relaxing is just feeling, awareness of the sensations. So the sensations in your face and all around your head. Just to explore that a little bit. And moving the attention down the shoulders, release the shoulders. And feel the sensations of arms and hands. Breathing into the belly, softening the belly, feeling the sensations around chest, belly, and then the back of the torso as well, the back. Feeling that central part of the body. And letting the attention move down then through the legs and feet. So blending this just mindful attention with a gentle effort to relax, settle. Not a striving, but just a kind of allowing. And then see if you can feel your whole body as a single object rather than these individual parts. What does that feel like? And what is the mind state that this is being experienced through? And to a great extent, our experience of our body and really our experience of the world is filtered through this present moment attitude that can include an emotional state, or point of view, or insight. Might be the things that are particularly interesting you right now, so that your felt experience actually reflects your mental experience, your mental attitude. And then arriving at the breath, just settling back with the breath. As the mind wanders, we gently bring it back, trying to maintain a certain connection to the body, to the breath, to the present moment. All right. Um, I'm gonna get into the finally move on from step 9. Phew, it's been a long time. I think we spent more time on step 9 than any other step, and just because of the promises. Uh, so um, I just was, thinking as we were sitting about. This is not about a step, but about how um, there's this tendency. At least it's something I noticed in myself, that of feeling that in any given moment or day or situation that I've kind of arrived somewhere and I need to make decisions from there, particularly from the mental state that I'm in. Uh, and it makes for this very sort of erratic path through life because uh, because it kind of depends on your mood and and the immediate circumstances and situations that led up to where you are. And that seems very typical. It certainly reminds me of my time as an active addict, of just kind of not having any clear direction or through line to my life, but always kind of just like responding to what that felt like at this time, like I need to quit this, or I need to move, or whatever. Just sort of making these sort of impulsive decisions, and how both recovery and Buddhism like suggest that you need to have like a direction, a clear intention that's not buffeted so much by those changing moods and mind states. And I think that which actually is relevant to the beginning of the last 3 steps, because they are really about setting that path and establishing that path um, as something relatively stable and consistent in our life. And I do think that shift in approach to life is one of the things that really changes. It certainly is one of the things that really changed how my life unfolded. Um, being guided by principles rather than impulses. Just a thought. So, just looking out at who is here, most of you, um, there's a few names that I don't immediately recognize, but most of you are people I've known for a while or have been with this class for a while. And so that's nice. It makes it a lot easier for me to just be myself here. Um, and so I don't have to, well, I will say what I usually say, which is that we've been working through my book, One Breath at a Time, Buddhism and the 12 Steps. This is the newer cover that was created when the original publisher, Rodale, was taken over by the, uh, you know, um, larger organization. What's it called? Can't remember. Harper, whatever, something. No, Random House, something. Somebody owns me, but this was redone in 2017, and we added a forward to at that time by uh, Bill Alexander, and I also added an afterward. So if you have the older version, you're missing out and you have to buy it again. Anyway, uh, so yeah, so I've been, and I decided to do this back in March of 2020, when the first night when I did a Zoom class was March 13th, which is a Friday, which maybe should have told us something, if we're superstitious. Um, and I felt a little bit adrift, or a little sort of like, how do I do this? I had worked on Zoom, but I had not uh, done regular Dharma classes on Zoom. And I thought, and I I had committed right then to teach twice a week, at least as long as people needed online teaching. And and I thought, oh God, I'm gonna have to come up with something to teach every time, and that's gonna be a lot of work, and I don't like work. So how can I make this easy for myself? One of my goals in life. I ask every day, how can I make this easy for myself? I think that's a good, I think we should all be asking that of ourselves. How can we make life easy for ourselves? Why do we make it harder than it anyway? So then I guess over that weekend, I realized, oh, I could use one of my books. I'll use One Breath at a Time, and then I'll uh, I'll just use that as a jumping off point and read parts of it. And so that's how we got here. And I have then over these months, and over in these 15, 16 months now, um, gone through, I go ahead to the next step uh, and prepare, go make notes, in case you're wondering. So I do work. I do prepare. Uh, and highlight particular parts. And so we've gotten to part 3, and I in putting this book together back in 2003, which was, I think I did most of the writing in 2003. It seemed like it would be nice to sort of divide up the steps into these 3 parts, and it's kind of a writer, just for you, people who are interested in these things. It's kind of a writer trick, is to like divide up books into parts, and it's almost a way of making the reader feel like, oh, there's some logic to this, and it is, I think, largely for the reader. Depends. Some books it's really necessary, but it was a way of helping me and helping readers think about the different uh, areas of the steps. So part 1 I called surrender, for step 1, step 2, and step 3. So the idea that we were first surrendering to our addiction, and then surrendering to a higher power, and then having to sort all that out, what that would mean. And then part 2 was called investigation and responsibility, steps 4 through 9. It's pretty evident what that's about. And I do think, I think probably many people think of the steps in these 3 different sections. Certainly when you move from step 3 to step 4, there's some big change happening in the steps. And step 4 and step 5 are obviously connected, but step 4 is also connected to step 9, because you're writing down your inventory that then you're going to have to make amends about. So there's a clear through line from step 4 to step 9. And then step 10, because it is reiterating uh, essentially steps 4 through 9, is clearly, another big shift. It's like it's um, about continuing to take inventory and admitting it when you're wrong. So that's specifically steps 4 and step 9 are in that step, but it implies this whole ongoing process, which clearly it's pointing us in another direction with the steps, because up to here, there's been this process by which we could say, "Oh, I'm working the steps," and you can sort of like the first time you go through these things, and you are uh, uh, um, uncovering things for the first time and making amends for the first time and taking this inventory for the first time. Uh, and so there's this whole process, which, is considered certainly by the founders in traditional AA to be an essential part of of recovery. But once you've done that once, the question is, well, okay, am I done with that? And you are done with it. Well, everybody's got their view about this, but I would say you're done with this as a sort of groundwork and as a the seeing the uh, primary issues that you've had to deal with and sort of sorting all that out and getting your life on track. And now step 10 is saying, yes, and you need to keep it on track. And here's the beginning of how you're going to do that. So step 10 is the maintenance of the inventory, and then step 11 is this deepening spiritual element, which kind of somewhat calls to mind step 3, and we'll get to that when we get there. And then step 12, this sort of culminating step that that has this uh, has multiple layers, but well, has 3 kind of primary layers to it. But as it's the last line in step 12 says to practice these principles in all our affairs, it calls back what I began talking about, which is that the idea that um, our lives should be guided by principles now rather than like impulses, you know, or cravings, and that you know um, I mean, in a way, when you get to that point, maybe that's the most important thing we have to keep in mind in our recovery. Maybe the thing that's most important in sustaining recovery and sustaining a life that's potentially happy, joyous, and free. That we practice these principles in all our affairs. So that's kind of a summation of where we are going in the coming months, because I assume that it's going to take us some months to get through these last 3 steps. And then we will have to figure out where to go from there. What we could do is just run the recordings of the talk. So just go back to, and then I could really take a break. Anyway, always trying to figure out ways to make it easier. So, so here we are at, I'm on page, doesn't have a page number on it. Let's see, page 204 says part 3, fulfillment. So, it's sort of interesting that when I think of the last 3 steps, I think of them as the maintenance steps, and I mentioned that in here. But I think I was trying to give a little bit more of an uplifting uh, sort of characterization of the last 3 steps, and it is a nice. I do like that fulfillment. Maintenance just sort of sounds like a drag, like just have to go out and mow the lawn and rake the leaves and brush your teeth and don't forget to floss and, maintain. Uh, Whereas fulfillment sounds like, well, fulfillment also sounds like you've arrived somewhere, which is not really true, but makes people feel good. So I have, as I do for each of these parts of the book, I have a short introduction here. I might as well read it. It's just 3 short paragraphs. The last 3 steps are the culmination of the spiritual path. Here, we try to thoroughly integrate the work we've done into our lives. We learn to maintain the honesty and responsibility we developed in the earlier steps, to deepen our spiritual connection and to serve others. Buddhism teaches that the real value of the spiritual life isn't found in moments of great bliss, but in the daily application of mindfulness and loving kindness. Steps 10, 11, and 12 point to the same truth. It's our ongoing effort that is most important to our spiritual development. We can't rest on yesterday's calm and insight. We must renew our commitment and energy each day. These steps are the cornerstones of maintenance. They are also the bridge to a life that is, quote, happy, joyous, and free, unquote. Our spiritual awakening brings liberation as we enter a new life, one free from the encumbrances of addiction and one guided by the principles of wisdom and compassion. Um, so, uh, I've been writing Dharma books for too long, so uh, the phrase that I highlighted on this page, actually, I'm going to ask. Here's a test. How much people know me, and how much maybe I don't know. That's not even fair. But what do you what sentence do you think I highlighted in this? So, and I don't know. Some of you don't have the book in front of you. How many people have the book in front of you? Okay, yeah, that's pretty good. That's excellent. So, and Debbie's got the original version, the classic version, uh, which I actually prefer that cover. But anyway, so give me some guesses here. Which sentence did I highlight? I should be nicer. I should say, what sentence would you highlight? Not trying to make this a competition. Carol, what do you have to say?
I think it's going to be, we can't rest on yesterday's calm and insight. We must renew our commitment and energy each day.
That's nice. Good line.
For me, that's
Yeah.
key.
Yeah, definitely. It's worth highlighting. Yes. But yeah, thank you. I'm not like uh, um, first sentence of the second paragraph. Who said that? Catherine? Yes. That actually is the one that I highlighted, which is Buddhism teaches that the real value of the spiritual life isn't found in great moments of great bliss, but in the daily application of mindfulness and loving kindness. And it, of course, it goes exactly along with the last sentence that Carol highlighted. I highlighted that, I think, partly, because the note that I made about this was, uh, it challenges the idea of enlightenment as an endpoint or great insights. And then in parentheses, like on plant medicine. So it might be a theme that I have running right now. Uh, moments of great bliss are, lots of fun. Uh, but anyway, um, yeah, this is definitely right where I'm sorry, I'll use the cliche, the rubber meets the road that and this is really, my work much more than as people come to me like, who are trying to get sober or trying to stay sober and or they're worried about their family member that's an addict and what should they do and that's not I don't consider that to be my work. I not that I don't want to do it. It's just not something I have the gift for. What I consider my work to be the work of um, renewing our commitment and energy each day. and the daily application of mindfulness and loving kindness, and which which is meant to address the fact that life goes on. You know, you work the steps and then life goes on, and that that there, you know, that getting through the first 6 months of the first year is just one issue, and as I say, it's not the one that I feel like I can really solve for people as much as the question of how to maintain this, how to keep going, and uh, you know, it w you know, we wanna think that's why I like this idea of enlightenment or something, or I had a great insight. We wanna think that something has been solved, um, when we have those moments, and, you know, my point is that nothing is ever solved, you know, it's, or no, all solutions are temporary, yeah. There are solutions, but they are only the solutions to something that's in the past, and now the present and the future keeps unfolding, and the question is how to live with all that, and how to maintain some balance and sanity and happiness through all the things that keep happening, you know, and when all of a sudden you can't leave your house, you know, uh, and people are dying, and you know, everything that you depended on as uh, a routine is taken away, uh, and everything else that happens in life, whether it's, you know, sickness, old age, and death, or jobs, or relationships, or children, or parents, and you know, it just doesn't stop, right? And uh, so how do we deal with that? And it's this daily work. It's this constantly coming back, and that you know, the practice of meditation, besides being a tool in itself, is also a metaphor for life. And it's the metaphor for this path, and it's encapsulated in that phrase, "Keep coming back," which happens to be also a phrase that's often said at the end of every 12-step meeting. Often said at the end of every, well, I've heard it at the end of every meeting. So what that means to me is that we're coming back to these principles that guide us. You know, we meditate and the mind wanders, and we come back to the breath. Well, if we take the breath as being the guiding principle, or the through line, or the intention, the right intention that's guiding us, then that's the thing we come back to. It's the principles, practicing these principles in all our affairs. And the mind wandering is life. Life wanders, you know, and it goes into fantasies and resentments and fears and, uh, you know, just calculations. I don't know how much time people spend calculating, but it's something that I notice in my own meditation. There's plenty of calculating, and I don't often hear meditation teachers talk about that. It's usually talking about thoughts, but calculating is one of those like ways that we just keep the mind busy, you know, thinking about numbers and dates uh, and you know, money and uh, how many years it was since anyway. So um, so all those mental ramblings are the, you know, the, in this metaphor, are like the problems that arise in life, and 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 then realizing, okay, what, I come back to my breath and I come back to my body, and I go, oh, you know, where am I really, and where am I trying to go really, and what can I, what should I do? You know, what can I call upon to do? And of course, the what we that that coming back to the breath is also then the metaphor for coming back to the Eightfold Path, and which means it's the refuge. It's the refuge in the breath is the refuge in the Dharma, saying, oh, what's my foundation? What can I trust here? What do I need to be reminded of? Which the word sati, which is the Pali word from which we have decided that we translate as mindfulness. The word sati has its roots in a word that's about memory. And there's a lot of different opinions about what that means. And, scholars who say, well, it means this. And I have my own understanding of that, which for me, what's really important about that is remembering what is true, remembering the Dharma, remembering to be present. It's not about remembering the past, because remembering is also about remembering what is real, and which, means that the wandering mind, gets lost in an unreality, in a dream. There's a great term on one of the sort of stages of insight, and those stages of awakening is called disenchantment, when we are no longer under the spell of our delusion, under the spell of our wandering mind, our conditioned beliefs and conditioned responses, that we are actually, the spell is broken and we see reality. And so, when we meditate, we have those moments of disenchantment over and over, snapping out of it. Oh, wow. There I go. I was in that dream. I was in that fantasy. I was in that enchanted forest, wasn't it lovely? Oh, oops, it wasn't real. So, a few reflections for a Tuesday morning in July of 2021, according to the calendar that was created by some Romans, I believe, some thousands of years ago. Also, I believe the Dalai Lama's birthday, is it today? July 6th. I saw him on Twitter, he was tweeting out. All right, that was your cue. Yeah, hey, Jim, hi.
Good morning. Happy birthday, Dalai Lama.
Yeah.
Let's see. So what was the term you used? Calculating?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that as it's also, for me at least, a way of maintaining the illusion that I'm in control of things. And that there's a self that is in control of things as well.
That's right.
So I do think that is really, that's really worth paying attention to.
Yeah.
Secondly, you were very convincing. I bought the book on Kindle, and I have a question. Who's the guy in the picture?
That's one of those, like,
Oh, it's a stock picture.
Stock shot. Yep.
Okay.
I know that people are always like, wow, is that you? Like,
is that you?
I don't remember being there.
And then
I think they took my picture out of this book altogether, didn't they? I just realized that. Wow. No picture of me. Sad. Go on.
Okay, so I'm on an Amazon roll here.
Right.
So thirdly, fulfillment. It was, you wrote before there were Amazon fulfillment centers, I guess. That's what I think of when I think of fulfillment now.
Yeah.
Amazon fulfillment centers. And fourth, I noticed when I was buying the book that your Daily Reflections book is on Kindle Unlimited now. Do you know that? Did you know that?
I don't, what is that?
It means you can read it for free if you're a Kindle. Oh, no. I guess it's a subscription thing. There's Prime Reading and there's Kindle Unlimited. That's you pay a monthly service and you can read it for free or read a bunch of books.
I think I signed up for that probably. I just
Oh.
figured, get it out there. And,
Okay, that was what I was wondering. Do they ask you or do they just
Yeah,
do
and
it without you?
I, because I published it through Amazon, I get directly paid by Amazon, and they have this thing. If you're going to take me down this route, you asked for it. They have a thing called KENP, which is Kindle edition normalized pages. It's the number of pages read by Kindle Unlimited and Kindle Owners Lending Library readers that qualify for a share of the KDP Select Global Fund. So since the 1st of July, people have read 1,528 pages of daily reflections through that. You got me going there, Jim. And
I apologize.
If I've made a nickel from that, I would be surprised. So it's pretty much like being on Spotify, you just give yourself away. Give it away, give it away, give it away.
So I bought the book, downloaded it to my iPad, but it's through the Kindle process at Amazon. So in other words, every page I read in the book, you're getting a royalty for. They're tracking the pages that I read. I bet you they are.
Probably.
Anyway, I feel really good about that.
I can tell you that I make more money when you buy the actual book.
When you buy a hard copy?
Or if you buy the Kindle version.
Which I did.
Oh, okay. Then we're good. We're good then.
Okay, so there's my Dana for the day.
Oh, okay. Darn. Debbie, did you want to say something like Dharma related?
There you go. It's going to bring it on back.
Keep coming back.
All of this, exactly. I love that. When you were asking about, what sentence would we anticipate you might have highlighted?
Yeah.
And then thank you for offering which one, or maybe which one did you highlight? And myself, and I have highlighted the last sentence, that last paragraph, a bridge to happy, joyous, and free. And our spiritual awakening brings liberation as we enter a new life, one free of encumbrances of addiction and one guided by the principles of wisdom and compassion. And I have to say, there is such a freedom. By the time you get to step 10, it's like, oh, I get to stay on top of this now every day. Step 10. I'm not drowning in all of that past, at least not so much. I might not have completed, do we ever complete for, 5, 8, 9? Do we ever? We don't, but we get ourselves at least so that our head is above water eventually. And then step 10 offers that respite of, it's not lackadaisical, not working, but it's so much easier to, wipe the counter clean when there's not an inch of dust on it, so it's more manageable. And so for me, that relates to coming back into the present moment and knowing that I don't have to do anything, work with anything else but that right now. I don't have to worry about the future. I've done my best about the past. And as the past comes up in the present moment, then I can deal with it again right now. And so I'm ever so grateful for that and for experiencing that in my life. I can offer that possibility to my sponsees. I have one sponsee who's still drowning right now, and I'm just so I have so much compassion for her because I know where that is. I know that place, and yeah, getting to step 10 is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie. That's great. Appreciate it. Hmm. Megan, you wanted to chime in?
Hi, Kevin. Hi, everyone. So it's interesting talking about the past. I'm a therapist, and sometimes what we do is talk about the past and integrate past experiences, which I think is maybe what steps 4 through 9 are a little bit about, is that integration process. Of healing in a way. Anyway, I'm up here on Bainbridge Island, and I'm looking at old pictures of myself as a kid. I found a bunch of pictures from the early 80s, and looking at this little kid, I have cystic fibrosis. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that, but I was, at that time, most kids with cystic fibrosis didn't live past a certain age. They didn't have, anyway. So, and then I started looking at my teenage years when I started using and drinking, and the change that happened in me. It's like that innocence, really, the innocence, the playfulness, the child, just got stampeded with, I don't know, drugs and alcohol and being a badass and confidence, and this fake confidence that I had. And I guess in my sobriety, just now, I'm reflecting on that younger part, that playful part, which I think is more presence, right? Our inner child, our child is present usually, and so I guess I'm thinking of integrating that younger version of me, and seeing the change that happened, and coming back to that now. Yeah, I don't really know much what to say about more to say, but
No, I think that I really appreciate that, Megan, because it's definitely something I've thought about quite a bit. And, I think of it as like this return to innocence, and realizing that, like, many of us in our childhood did have some sort of guiding, whether we call it spiritual, or but sort of some path, and there was some, we can when we look back and we realize, oh, we really lost our way. And typically it's in our teenage years that starts to happen. Um and I do think that part of recovery can be this kind of going back to particularly in the kind of finding joy, like where was my joy as a child, that I lost, that I tried to replace with drugs and alcohol. So, but it also can be uh, painful to look at that, but to try to turn that into a positive or something valuable as as we go on in our recovery. Yeah. Thank you. Um, so, well, Joe, why don't you uh, have the last word here?
The last word, my gosh.
Well, I'll actually have the last word, but
Oh, good. Oh, good.
so don't worry. No pressure.
Kevin, I was thinking about Zen mind, beginner's mind. And it's interesting because in the foreword by Houston Smith to that book, it's in the original edition, I don't know. there's a discussion of the fact that that Srinro Suzuki never speaks of of Satori, right?
Right.
Enlightenment experience. And I really, really like that because it's all just returning to the practice over and over again. And in fact, when I think back to my ACA days, I could almost swear that there was some sort of line in the stuff that we used to read that talked about giving up this idea of ever getting there or being willing to give up exciting experiences or something. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with excitement, but
Right.
but seeking excitement,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's all.
Yeah. Thanks, Joe. That's a good way to sum up this morning. That yeah, I mean, if you're enlightened, why do you have to talk about it? Like, seems like probably like not necessary. But yeah, and the seeking excitement. It's like that. I think as addicts, that's like the guiding principle, the guiding light of like where you want to be is like high. We want to stay high all the time, and rather than saying, "Oh, those moments come," and they're delightful and to be enjoyed, and then let go of. Um, yeah. Well, thank you all. Just a few programming notes. This evening, I will be giving a talk to Napa Valley Insight Group, and this will part of my series on the Eightfold Path. And tonight, the topic is right mindfulness, which is, I actually rarely give a talk on just mindfulness. So we'll see what that's like. And then this Friday will be the Spirit Rock Zoom class rather than the Kevin Zoom. You can get there. I have the link on the same Zoom page on my website. And thank you for all your Donna and your presence and hanging out with me, helping me to get through these times. Very much appreciate having a community where I feel safe to be me, which is not true of every place in the world. So thanks.